Imagine a nation at war with itself, cities burning, families torn apart, and the fate of a country hanging in the balance. The American Civil War was one of the bloodiest and most significant conflicts in history. But what were the real causes of this war? How did pivotal battles change the course of history? And what secrets does this war hold today? In this video, we will dive into the dramatic story of the American Civil War, from its origins to its fateful conclusion. Stay tuned to uncover the truth behind a conflict that forever changed America. To truly understand why the Civil War happened, we have to go back several decades. The division between the North and the South had been growing since the early 19th century. The Southern economy relied heavily on slavery, with vast cotton plantations fueling a booming agricultural industry. Meanwhile, the North was becoming more industrialized, with an economy built on manufacturing and free labor. As new states were added to the Union, the question arose: would they allow slavery? The Missouri Compromise of 1820 tried to maintain balance by allowing Missouri to enter as a slave state, while Maine became a free state. But this was only a temporary fix. The 1850s saw even more conflict. The Fugitive Slave Act forced northern states to return escaped enslaved people. The Kansas-Nebraska Act led to violent clashes in Bleeding Kansas, and the Dred Scott decision ruled that Black Americans had no citizenship rights. Each of these events pushed the nation closer to war. The final straw came in 1860, when Abraham Lincoln was elected as the 16th President of the United States. Although Lincoln didn't initially call for the immediate abolition of slavery, Southern states saw this election as a threat to their way of life. In December 1860, South Carolina became the first state to secede from the Union. Within months, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas followed. In February 1861, these states formed the Confederate States of America, electing Jefferson Davis as their president. After the attack on Fort Sumter, 4 more states, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina, joined the Confederacy. With 11 states now standing against the Union, the United States was officially at war. The first shots of the Civil War were fired on April 12, 1861, at Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina. Confederate forces bombarded the Union-held fort for 34 hours until the Union troops surrendered. The war had begun. Lincoln immediately called for 75,000 volunteers to suppress the rebellion. The North believed it would be a quick and decisive victory, but they were wrong. The first major battle, the First Battle of Bull Run, also known as Manassas, proved otherwise. Thousands of spectators came to watch, expecting an easy Union victory. Instead, Confederate forces, led by General Thomas Stonewall Jackson, stood their ground and sent Union troops fleeing back to Washington. It was clear the war would be long and bloody. With both sides preparing for a long conflict, military strategies were put in place. The Union, under General Winfield Scott, developed the Anaconda Plan, a strategy to blockade southern ports, cut off trade, and seize control of the Mississippi River. The goal was to strangle the South economically. Meanwhile, the Confederacy relied on a defensive strategy, hoping to wear down the North's will to fight. They also sought recognition from European powers like Britain and France, believing that their cotton exports would force foreign intervention. While the Eastern battles drew most of the attention, the Western theater was just as critical. In early 1862, Union General Ulysses S. Grant secured key victories at Fort Henry and Fort Donelson. Then came the bloody Battle of Shiloh in April 1862, where over 23,000 soldiers were killed or wounded. This battle proved that the war would be far more destructive than anyone had imagined. The Union's biggest victory in the West came at Vicksburg in July 1863. Grant's army laid siege to the city for over 40 days, eventually forcing its surrender. This gave the Union full control of the Mississippi River, effectively splitting the Confederacy in two. One of the most pivotal battles of the war was over 22,000 casualties. It remains the bloodiest single day in American history. Though it ended in a tactical stalemate, the Union claimed victory. This gave Lincoln the confidence to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, shifting the war's focus to ending slavery. Then in July 1863 came the Battle of Gettysburg, the turning point of the war. After 3 days of intense fighting, General Robert E. Lee's Confederate forces suffered a crushing defeat. His gamble to invade the North had failed, and the South never fully recovered. As the war entered its final phase, Union General William Tecumseh Sherman launched his infamous March to the Sea. His troops burned cities, destroyed railroads, and crippled the South's ability to fight. Meanwhile, Grant pursued Lee's army in Virginia, leading to a final stand at Appomattox Courthouse. On April 9, 1865, Lee surrendered to Grant, effectively ending the war. Just days after the war ended, President Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth at Ford's Theater. His death left the nation mourning and uncertain about the future. The period known as Reconstruction followed, aiming to rebuild the South and secure rights for newly freed African Americans. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery, but resistance remained. Groups like the Ku Klux Klan emerged, and racial tensions continued for decades. The war wasn't just a battle between North and South. There was also a third player, the West. While many think of the Civil War as an Eastern conflict, the expansion of the Western frontier played a crucial role. Southerners had long sought to extend slavery into new territories, while many in the West opposed the idea, seeing it as a way for wealthy plantation owners to dominate land ownership. Tensions ran high in states like Kansas and Missouri, where violent skirmishes broke out between pro-slavery and anti-slavery settlers, events that became known as Bleeding Kansas. Meanwhile, many Western states, such as California and Oregon, remained loyal to the Union, providing gold, food, and soldiers to the war effort. However, some Western settlers resented both sides, feeling disconnected from the larger conflict and simply wanting to expand westward without interference. One of the most overlooked aspects of the Civil War is the role of African American soldiers. Early in the war, Black Americans were not allowed to serve in the Union Army. But after the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, that changed. Over 180,000 African American men enlisted in the Union forces, forming regiments like the famous 54th Massachusetts Infantry. These soldiers faced extreme discrimination, lower pay, poor equipment, and brutal treatment if captured by Confederate forces. Despite this, they played a crucial role in key battles, proving their courage and dedication to the Union cause. Their service was not only vital to the war effort, but also laid the groundwork for the fight for equal rights in the decades that followed. The Civil War changed America forever. It preserved the Union, ended slavery, and set the stage for civil rights movements. The war serves as a reminder of the cost of division and the ongoing fight for equality. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.